Welcome back to 321 Backlog, the podcast where two gentlemen sit uncomfortably close, only separated by a melting ice cream cone, are on a mission to count down their video game backlog. How you doing, Alec?
Fantastic, James. That was great. I love it. I'm almost done with this ice cream cone. Give me a minute.
Yeah, man. Just let's save me the last bit of it.
You got it.
Have you ever had, there's a, it's like a snack or a sweet snack, candy, maybe, a treat. And it's just, I think they're called just the tip, but it's the bottom part of an ice cream cone with a chocolate in the bottom of it. Have you had that?
They're like nibs or something. I know what you're talking about. I have had them.
Yeah. God, they're good.
My wife found them like on Amazon one time, and since then, that was maybe a year or two ago. Since then, we have started seeing them in the supermarkets. More people are getting the idea of this is a really good snack.
Yeah, they tend to make it into Christmas time for me from people. They just know. I love waffle cone and chocolate combined, but not separately. So that's why I went with this really weird intro.
Dude, speaking of drumsticks, we have recently found they're like weird not weird flavors, but just more than just vanilla ice cream or a standard sugar cone. A chocolate cone with banana ice cream in it.
Nope.
With the chocolate coating around it. I don't like banana. No. And it is so good. It is, you gotta try it.
I'll try it. I would try anything bad for me once.
Yeah, they have the pack that we got had all of them chocolate cones, one with vanilla, one with the banana, and then one with strawberry. The strawberry is good, not as good as the banana. But really, really good. But anyway, what do we actually talk about here? Video games, right?
Well, yeah, and perfect segue. We're actually talking about The Wolf Among Us today.
There you go.
By Telltale Games.
Well, hey, before we get into the bulk of it, which, yes, we are going to be talking about The Wolf Among Us, do we want to get through our backlog builders and what we've been playing recently?
Certainly. Have you bought or purchased or acquired any games recently?
I made it our whole span of not recording without buying a single thing. So I feel like that's a little bit of a win for me.
Yeah,
because it's always like it's like $1 here, $1 there, or whatever, and you'll just get it. But I haven't bought a single game.
I got several, actually. I don't know. I actually might have more that I didn't know that I got. But Unfinished Swan, we talked about that. It was but supposedly one of the characters' family members from Edith's family and Edith Finch escapes or something, gets out, moves away, and then allegedly went on to make a game that was Unfinished Swan. I got that just because I figured we'll probably end up playing it, right?
Yeah.
And Elden Ring, for reasons. It's a beautiful game. I haven't really played it much, but I did acquire it. And then Brotato, which don't really like it very much, but it's a Vampire Survivor type game, like a bullet hell type one. Maybe it'll get better the more I play it, and it'll kind of expand the way Vampire Survivors did. It just seems kind of the same.
Right.
Yeah. But also, it's kind of hard to, those are all the same style of game. It's kind of hard to set yourself aside, but I'll play it, obviously, more.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Is it quick to get, in and out, like Vampire Survivors is?
Yeah, it's basically the same thing, same concept, your guns auto fire for you or whatever weapon you have, but all the character models look almost exactly the same. They're just variants of a potato. Who cares? The enemies don't really seem like they have a lot of variety visually, and the map is small. It's not a gigantic expanding map the way Vampire Survivors is. It's just a rectangle.
Right.
It's small. And then another thing that I want to bitch about with it is whenever you level up or complete a level, it puts you in a menu screen. It's not like you level up and then you pick a talent and you keep going. It's very move to stage 2. and then they just give you like a myriad of choices to upgrade, and it's like, I want to play this game because it's very quick. I don't want to read that this drops my HP by 2 and this one brings up my damage by 10. Like, it's just a lot of information, and I just like
Right.
it's the type of game I want to just sit down, play it, and then go to work.
You're starting to sound like I am, like me. I don't want to
Well,
read.
when it's that specific type of game, like, I don't really want to read. Like, Vampire Survivors doesn't even like have much of a, it's like a half a sentence,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah,
No,
to an
I
extent,
totally get
yeah.
it. Yeah, the certain games don't need all the filler information all the time, so I definitely
Yeah.
get that.
Have you been playing any? Do you want to talk about some games that perhaps you've wrapped your greasy hands around a controller and dove
Yeah,
into
dude.
lately?
Yeah, Vampire Survivors, you had told me about that, so I jumped on that, played for a bit.
Yeah.
It's real fun. I think in the last week or two, I've probably played 10 days of that 14. For a match here or there, I'll play at the end of the day as I'm trying to wind down and go to bed. So it definitely is a really fun game to
Mm-hmm.
get in, play for a little bit. I've actually fallen asleep while playing it on the Steam Deck, and something will like wake me up enough to be like, oh, hey, I'm still holding this. And then I'll be like, okay, it's time to put that away.
There's a
And
build specifically for that, I guarantee it.
just get the garlic and you'll be good to go.
Get the holy water and upgrade it, and you don't even have to move. There you go.
Love it. Love it. Uh, been playing The Wolf Among Us, finished that a couple days ago in preparation for this.
Cool.
We've continued to play the World of Warcraft, so playing that every now and then. And I did crack open the Jedi Fallen Order game. I played for about an hour and a half, maybe. It's a fun game. I was a little hesitant to, jump into like such a big IP
Yeah.
that is Star Wars, and worried of like needing to know a lot of like background information. I know a very minimal amount, from like the movies and stuff. But you don't really need any of that. It jumps in, it puts you right in. It's really fun. I've been enjoying it so far, so that might be in our future.
What you play that
I've
on?
been I played it on the PC.
Okay. Is it
It
on Steam?
it Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It does link it to EA, to their client. So I
I
don't know
love
if
it
they're
when they
going to
do that.
pull. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to pull an Ubisoft or anything like that. That actually, because I was watching a video a little bit ago about some PlayStation announcements. They just announced, for when this is recorded, they just announced that they're going to be bringing God of War Ragnarok to PC, but you're going to have to link your PSN account to play it. Which,
That's
which
fine.
you know, great, but I worry that just like Netflix was cracking down on like sharing passwords, and all these other
Right.
ones are very, anti-share things that you own in the manner that you want to share them. I feel like this is going to become more and more common, and it's going
There's
to be
always a
harder and harder to
solution,
share
man.
games. There is always a solution, but I really think it's a step in the wrong direction, genuinely.
Yeah,
But
it sucks because like you mailed me a game that I wanted to play, which is, we're moving away from that. You can't just let someone borrow a game, and I really like the way Steam does it, where if you want to play that game, it basically says like, "Hey, James wants to borrow wants his game back."
yeah, yeah,
Like you gotta, and that's great because, dude, when I was a kid, man, there were not even rentals, man. So much of us playing games as kids was just sharing games.
yep, yep,
Like there was a kid who lived down the road from us, Jeremy.
yeah,
I remember our friend Mike was more participating in this, but we would just go to his house, and he had so many games because he was like 10 years older than us. And we
yeah.
would just like open a drawer and pick like a game or two to borrow.
Right,
It was
right.
just it was amazing. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah, better times, right? In gaming, I don't know. It's a real shame that we're really going to be going in
Hmm.
this direction, and it's not going to let up. I think it's going to be more and more. You got to have an account for this. Everything's going to be account bound, account locked, and we're not going to be able to really share anymore. And I really think it's going to go into. I predict that if the PS6 has a physical disk drive, they're going to start to go into once you download it and it reads that disk and it reads that disk number or whatever, it's going to be locked to that account, and then you won't be able to share that disk anymore.
EA did that in
feel
the
like it's gonna go
360
that
era
route.
at some point. They had it where, like, yeah, this was very, very annoying. So we rented Battlefield, I believe it was, and I got the game home, and I had to pay $10 to be able to play it online because it was already linked to an EA account. And this was
Oh
the
no.
intention was that you can't sell a game third party and they'll still make money off of it if you
Yeah.
do. And which really sucked in the case of a rental because we bought it just to
Yeah.
try it out to play it online, and you don't want to. The only time you would not have to pay that $10 is if you happen to be the first person to rent it.
Yeah, that's a real shame.
Yeah. We ended up, I mean, Blockbuster, God bless them, they gave me the money back for it back in the day. But, that's just a shitty practice to do. Just not good.
Absolutely. What have you been playing?
Yeah, man. So, Wolf Among Us, obviously, Vampire Survivors, apparently. And I got into Final Fantasy Tactics a little bit. The PSP version of it specifically because it has a more fleshed out story, new characters, and the sound is, I think, improved in it a little bit, and some of the dialogue as well. But they, I mean, I guess there's a significant slowdown issue with it because it's kind of a big game for the PSP. So people fixed it on a ROM copy. I own a copy of the game, like I do. I've got legitimate copies of it, and like plenty of them. But yeah, somebody made a ROM copy and fixed it, and so I got that and was trying that out. It's pretty cool. It's fun, man. I really enjoyed that game, and like we have our mutual friend Eric, who's like he's been trying to get me to play Final Fantasy 14 online, and it actually takes place in the same universe. So there's some of those
Okay.
characters that are in one game or in the other. So
And how does Final Fantasy Tactics play? Is it like a
I don't know. No, it's a
Well,
tactics like almost like chess kind of thing. You start, it's like a huge battlefield. You can rotate it 360 degrees, and your players move on squares.
mhm.
And you have like knights. There's all these different job classes. There's like squires, knights, mages, white mage, black mage,
Right.
samurai, ninja, whatever. And you just there is a story to it, but the gameplay is the meat of it. And you start out opposite ends of the battlefield and try to get in a favorable position. If you have archers, you probably want them high up so they can shoot downward.
Right.
And then you have like ranged, it's just, there's so much involved in it. Like if your characters die, they could permanently die kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I guess I could have just said like a primitive version of Baldur's Gate. That's what I should have said.
Oh, okay. Okay. So like an isometric or top-down esque
Yeah.
view. I
Yep.
gotcha. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it was a PS1 game originally, so it's not a beautiful game, but it does look good in its own right.
Right on. I'll have to give it a try.
Yeah, you do, man. I think you would enjoy a little bit, but dude, what's turning me off of playing it is like the amount of work that you have to put in between fights. Like one battle could take like 30 minutes as it would in like most of those type of games, but then you have to like level your characters up and like buy abilities as they level, and this is all in it's a lot of time in menus. I just want to play, so I'm definitely not going to finish it.
Oh, gotcha. All right. Do you want to get in the meat of the episode?
Yeah, man, video games.
Right
Kind
on.
of.
The Wolf Among Us is an episodic graphic neo-noir mystery drama adventure game developed by Telltale Games based on Bill Willingham's Fables comic book series. to which it serves as a prequel. The game consists of 5 episodes that were released throughout 2013 and 2014. In the game, the player controls Bigby Wolf, the sheriff of Fabletown, a clandestine community within the 1980s New York City consisting of various fantastical characters from fairy tales and folklore. So, man, this game was not quite what I was expecting. So, I wanted to just touch base on the release dates because when I was putting our little show notes here, I didn't realize that it was a episodic release to the game. So you did
Right.
when it first came out, you had to wait for the episodes to come out. So it started in October of 2013, and then roughly every 2 to 4 months, another episode would come out, which I thought was interesting. I don't know if I would like that if I was playing in the moment, but it's a cool concept.
Yeah, I guess the idea is that was when like 360 era games were a lot like arcade style. You could just
Right.
download that game and it wasn't a very big game, but you'd get the episodic releases and then they probably release a physical copy of all episodes at the end of it.
Right,
So
right.
I would
And one
definitely
last
prefer to
thing.
play it start to finish. I wouldn't want to do
Oh, for
episodic,
sure.
and I mean I don't have enough memory, like brain memory, to remember what
Well,
happened.
I talk about this so often on the show. My time can get pretty squirrely day to day.
Yeah.
And this, I really like the clear lines within the episodes. I could play for an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe, and then just get up and walk away. And it was fully contained in that play session.
Yeah.
And then coming back, it did a little like recap and then
Hmm.
got you back in. So I
Yeah.
did actually like it. I did 5 separate sit down sessions
Oh,
to play
nice.
through them.
You
Yeah,
did
so
it.
it was
You
it
did
was real
it,
nice.
man.
But one other thing on our little game information section was the Metacritic ratings I found. Overall, the series did pretty well. 80, it got an 80, but they did have a by episode rating, and I did notice that the lowest was episode 4. It got the lowest rating was 69. It
Nice.
ranged at low 70s, and then episode 1 and 5 tied at the highest for the rating at mid 80s.
I
So
I don't remember episode 4 being like particularly boring at all. I feel like it was maybe
I think,
inconclusive at best, but
you know, because I was trying to think about this a little bit, and I think it just like basic story structure on
mhm.
the overarching thing. You have, episode 1, 2, and 3 was kind of like your build up and it constantly was building up. And episode 4 was like a bit of a dip and then it built up for like a nice finale in episode 5. So I feel like episode 4 was really just a lot of like just connecting dots. So maybe it just felt a little lacking or a little maybe a little boring because it was just trying to fill in pieces.
Yeah.
And then it finished off with a strong ending. All right, let's move down here. History with the game or the franchise, really. I had none before this. I think we talked briefly about it when we announced what we were playing last
Yeah.
episode. But I think you were a little bit more familiar with Telltale as a company and what they did and some of the other properties they've made games for.
Yeah, so the Telltale Games Walking Dead series, I was a pretty big fan of that. I played through all of those. They've had, I mean, it was a lot. And it was way more than this. I want to say maybe 5 times as much. Maybe 4 or 5
Right.
times as many. And
Wow.
they had all these original Walking Dead characters that they squandered the opportunity to bring them into the show time and time again. And yeah, so they were really good. The Borderlands one I enjoyed a lot as well. I did play it again more recently when we were all into Borderlands, and I didn't enjoy it nearly as much the second time. I don't know why, I just didn't. But I enjoyed this one. I liked the Telltale games, and I feel like they were very much of that time period, like the 2013. Everybody was doing like Let's Plays at that time too. Like YouTube
Mhm.
hadn't cracked down on it, or the producers of games hadn't cracked down on it really bad. So everyone had a Let's Play channel back then. So these were big in that because they were like very, very story heavy and not a lot of discussion had to be actively happening. So you'd see a
Right.
lot of Let's Players, the big ones were playing these ones at that time. And
I feel
then
like the Borderlands. Sorry to
oh,
cut
you're
in. I
good.
feel like the
I was
Borderlands
rambling.
one would have. No, no, no. I think the Borderlands one would have. Like the art styles are very similar, so I think it
Very
would
a
have
cell
felt.
shade. Yeah.
Yeah, if I would have felt like the perfect medium for what Telltale was going for. I think the Borderlands would have been like an easy transition. Uh,
That might be part of the reason they did it. Also, Borderlands has such a fantastical setting.
right, for sure.
And The Walking Dead being a comic too, it fits well. Like
Right.
originally a comic. And then I did read, speaking of that, I enjoyed this so much that I did read a fair amount of the comics actually, and that pretty much put the nail in the coffin for that for me. I think this is a really well liked comic, but I just didn't enjoy it at all. At
I
all.
think I've tried to get into comics multiple times, and I think it's a type of media that if you like it, and if you don't, it's just kind of hard to get into it versus like a traditional novel or something.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I've tried. I love the Walking Dead show, earlier seasons, of
Right.
course,
Yeah.
and my brother has, as far as I know, all of the comics for The Walking Dead, and I had looked through a couple of his, and they looked really fun. I read through a couple. It took me,
They
probably
looked
15
fun.
minutes to read through one. Yeah, they were really good. So I see the appeal.
Right.
I think it's I don't know. It's very different from your typical like sit down and read kind of media.
Yeah. When I was younger, I did enjoy comics. I've read like the Spawn comics, some other shit, and then I did read a lot of like I've read some comics when I was a kid, never super into the superhero ones. As an
Yeah.
adult, I did read all of the Walking Dead comics as they came out. I read them, and I remember when the final episode or the final uh, comic. Is there a term for that? Book,
Uh, uh,
magazine. The final one came out.
was it a series? A final? Oh, there is a term, and I'm
The
blanking. Like
last
every
one.
time edition, or
Sure.
yeah, sure, why not?
But yeah, I read it like the week it came out. So I kept up
I,
with it, and it was, I mean, in general, it was pretty good. It was really, I started on the show first, and then I
mhm.
got into the comics, and I enjoyed it. So I'm not incapable of reading words next to pictures. It's just that this one, I didn't like the way the story went in it. I didn't even like
Right.
any of the characters. Like characters that I liked a lot in the Telltale series. I don't know. I didn't even like Bigby that much. I remember he was kind of just they just
Yeah.
I don't know. Telltale did too good of a job, dude. I swear.
Well, that see, Telltale gave each character a voice,
Yeah.
quite literally, whereas the comics you kind of have to and even with reading any book, you have to be the one to add a voice, add your own tone, out of the punctuation and things that you're seeing on the page. So Telltale, I think, has a leg up on the graphic novels themselves, being able to give each character a solidified voice.
Well, it wasn't even that. I just remember the setting of Telltale felt so like gritty, and like the crime novel type of feel to it was so nice, but then the comics were just like they were just so all over the place and just so much fantasy like I remember very early on in reading the comics, Bigby ends up having like a bunch of kids and one of them is a ghost. It was just like I don't know, this isn't the same type of story at all. You know what I mean? Like I
Right,
don't
right.
care about the like character development of his children. Sorry, but I was expecting it to be kind of like he's solving problems as a sheriff, solving crimes. I wanted to know more about like what happened, because I feel like this was set up for another season or whatever you want to call it of this game. So I thought maybe I'd get the
which I want to talk
backstory I
about.
wanted. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, perfect segue. There was slash is a Wolf Among Us 2.
I didn't know
And
that.
so that's the thing. Hold on one second. Let me bring the wiki back up here. And I went to Telltale's website, and they do still have it plastered all over their site. Um,
I don't think it's come out yet.
it has not come out. It has not come out.
Okay, okay, fair.
So let's see. Sequel: Wolf Among Us 2 was initially it was announced in 2017 at the San Diego Comic-Con
Good God.
and originally set to premiere in 2018. And the one quote they had was Telltale had a majority studio closure due to, quote, unsurmountable challenges, canceling the Wolf Among Us's
Among
uh,
Us.
Among Us's second season. So that was back in 2018 when it was supposed to come up. But now when you look at it, they've gotten back into it and it's set to release this year in
11 years
2024.
later. What's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that?
That I 100% agree with. If you take the time instead of rushing it, because I feel like
That's
there.
not why though.
No,
They
no,
got like
I know,
canceled. They had a lot of issues. Something happened.
but I feel like, yeah, they if they had genuine issues, that's one thing. But there are studios out there that when they run into challenges, they'll maybe cut corners, rush things instead of like waiting and putting out a good game.
You remember
So
in the butcher shop that you go in through the butcher shop and then they clearly have chained people in front of a desk to work on stuff. I think that's
yeah.
what Telltale Games did to their employees. So they
There you
got
go.
shut down. But yeah, they did. They closed in 2018. They
Wow.
just had, yeah, and I think they spread themselves too thin because they had access to all these like big IPs like
Right.
Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, Batman. There's just so
Yeah.
much stuff, and I think they just spread too thin, and they were like, you got to write, and they had really good stories back then, and they
Yeah, for
were in
sure.
like all these established universes, so there was so much to pull from. Yeah, I
Mhm.
think they just kind of overdid it, and there was probably some, I don't know, some other nonsense, but I do remember a lot of drama with that, and I was like, great. It's one of my, a series I really enjoy. And The
Yeah.
Walking Dead hadn't finished yet, and all we fucking wanted was the conclusion of that.
Did
When
it
all
ever come
this,
out?
no, it did, yeah, but you could
Oh, okay.
tell that they had to get it out. Like that was like, if they didn't get it out, then I think there would have been a murder probably because they were some ravenous fans for that, dude.
Right, right. So I played this on the PC.
Yes, sorry. Yeah.
No,
I have a
just
old like DRM free copy of this that I got when it first came out.
oh, cool.
So I fired that guy up.
So what platform so you played it like on PC, mouse and
Yeah,
keyboard?
it's on PC. I think it was through GOG.
Okay.
I
I
played with a controller, not a mouse and keyboard.
so I initially started playing on the Steam Deck, and the first encounter, I was like not quick enough with the QTEs. I
Mm.
died. Like the very first encounter with the woodsman. We're not gonna get the spoilers yet, but
Did you not know how it
I
was going
got
to happen?
yeah,
Maybe.
I didn't know what was happening. I was like really into the choices, and this game you really had to be ready for shit to pop off.
Yeah.
So if this happened almost once every, at least once every episode, where I would kind of like rest a little bit, sit back, and just wait for the dialogue options to come up,
Hmm.
and then a fight would break out, and I'd like spring to my keyboard
Yeah, it's a chill
and
game till it
get rid of.
isn't. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I couldn't do it. I wasn't fast enough with the controller, so I had to switch to mouse and keyboard. No problems after that. But anyway, yeah. Let's see here. Graphics and art. I think we both really liked the art style.
It
It's
was
really
perfect
good.
for that. I'm a big fan of cell shaded art in games.
Mhm.
Borderlands, what other some other games probably.
Now, I think I feel like Borderlands and Telltale. I don't know who started it, but
I
these
think
whoever
Borderlands did.
did, they really nailed it, like on that aesthetic.
Yeah, I want to say Borderlands came out a good bit before this one. I don't. They didn't invent it.
No,
Like
I'm not saying they invented it, but I think for like a gaming art style, because
yeah,
I don't see this art style very often at all. It's really Borderlands and Telltale. I can't, off the top of my head, think of any other games that use this cell shaded with like really bold outlines on everything. I can't really
yeah.
think of any else that do it and do it well.
There was a game I played on PlayStation, or I wanted to play, called 13, I think it was, PlayStation 2. And it was the first
Mhm.
time I saw cel shaded graphics in a game, and I liked it a lot. And I would always try to rent it, and it was never available. And I still have
Right.
yet to play it. But I heard it was a good game, and that's all we have to say about that.
We might have a podcast that might be able to do that.
Okay, I might have a copy of it that I've gotten over the years with the
There you
intention to
go.
play it, and I never did. So yeah,
All right. Sound quality, really good.
good. Voice acting was great too. Yeah, very good.
Yep.
I didn't like Snow's voice actress. I don't know if it was her actress or her personality, but she was the anti-hero of the entire thing. Just let the big bad wolf do his thing.
So this is one thing I had not looked at the cast
Yeah,
for The
I don't
Wolf
know who
Among
they
Us.
are.
So I was actually curious to see if there were any names that we would know. There was actually one that I did recognize,
Yeah,
or I think I recognized. Um,
none of these people look familiar to
Bluebeard.
me.
Oh, that's not who I thought it was. Okay.
Hmm.
Bluebeard, I thought was oh, he was actually on The Walking Dead. Um, the black guy with the dreads, he had a tiger in the Walking Dead show.
Ezekiel,
Ezekiel, that's who it sounded like for Bluebeard, but it wasn't him.
are you sure?
Um, I'm looking at it says Dave Fenoy
But he
for
looks like the
Bluebeard.
description that you just said, but I guess it's not.
He
That's
does.
so weird. Yeah, he's.
Yeah,
Hmm.
they have very similar aesthetics with especially with the dreads.
Yeah.
Laura Bailey was in it. She's in everything, so we'll just go
Oh,
ahead
okay.
and
Yeah.
scratch that one. But she was a minor character, but I don't see any other names that are jumping out. Michelle Rodriguez, like the one we all know.
That's
No, not
interesting. The baby frog, whatever the little toad's name was, I guess did the one of the voices for maybe Clementine in The Walking Dead. She's like the main character,
oh, cool.
I think. Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, Toad Jr., Melissa
Yeah.
Hutchinson.
And
Okay.
Beauty. She did the voice of Beauty too.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who cares?
Oh, Adam Harrington did Bigby and The Woodsman. Interesting. Because they did not sound the same, which is awesome.
You get a little grit in your voice there.
All right, so
Okay.
yeah, voice
Yep.
acting really good.
They were definitely
Um,
voice actors.
for Snow, do you think it was just like the character of Snow or her performance?
It wasn't her performance. I think it was a combination of her character a little bit because she was very anti the way that I wanted to play the game. She was always saying to do the opposite of what I felt like I wanted to do. And then also she just kind of had that like pompous, like I'm going to do. It was her character. Moving on.
Oh man. Gameplay mechanics very very short. It was dialogue choices and quick time events. That
Hmm.
was it. So,
There
before
was
we
like a
get into
little
this,
exploring. You could like walk and choose.
yeah,
Yeah, but point and
very
click
very
adventure
minimal.
mixed with QTE.
Right, right.
Mixed with the Price is Right.
Before we get into the storyline, how did you plan on playing Bigby? Were you going to go like, nice guy, asshole, somewhere in between? What was your like main?
Somewhere in between. I didn't want to constantly be an asshole, but I felt like he kind of portrays himself as a character that wants to be better than he is, because so I don't know if anybody knows this game or series or comic, but basically it's all of these like fairy tale characters live in New York City in a part designated specifically for fairy tale characters. So Bigby is the big bad wolf, and he is now the sheriff of that part of town. But I like that he is the big bad wolf from Robin Hood, as well as the Three Little Pigs. He is the same bad wolf in this. So he's trying to be like a redemption arc type of character, but he still handles things the same way he always has, with just violence. So,
which I don't know if you got it immediately, but I didn't. So he's the big bad wolf, and his name is Bigby. Big B.
Oh yeah, I got that.
Wolf. That took me into like episode 2 is when I finally noticed it. Yeah, it's so clever. It's so obvious, and it took me embarrassingly a little bit longer to catch on. So yeah, we are in. So now we're going to get into story. Spoilers. This game is not the whole part of the game. The whole point of this game is the story. So be ready. So yeah, we're in Fabletown. It's like a little neighborhood of New York City, and then there's the farm in like upstate New York, which I don't know if that was ever visited in any of the comics.
Yes,
but it's like where the fables, these characters that are from fairy tales, can move around freely without the use of glamour, which is used to make them appear human.
Right.
Some characters don't need it. Snow White doesn't need glamour because she already looks human. The big bad wolf, Bigby, is like a werewolf, kind of. So most of the time he's in human form. Yeah. So he doesn't need humor. He doesn't need glamour.
He doesn't need humor either.
He doesn't need humor. So it is broken up into 5 episodes. And what I figured we could do, and I have a tiny synopsis in our show notes so to keep us kind of on track, we could kind of like go through each episode and kind of like talk about those moments.
Are you going to try and read all that?
No, God, no.
Okay, I was like, all right, I'm going to fucking bed, brother.
That's just to keep us like in
on
the
track.
realm of
okay,
things.
I like it. I like it. Okay. I was say, man, holy moly.
So starting out, Bigby Wolf, former Billy Big Bad Wolf. No,
you motherfucker.
So, you initially get called to settle like a civil dispute, like a disturbance between the woodsman and a lady of the night. We'll say, and this is the woodsman that was in the, what story was that?
Little Red Riding Hood.
Riding Hood, yeah. So this is the woodsman, and he is in the middle of beating the shit out of a woman. So you go and get into fisticuffs with him. I initially died from him. I think he axed me in the head because I wasn't sure how the controls worked.
He likes that move.
Oh yeah. That one was fun. It ends up with the woodsman, for me at least, and I don't know how much it varied on this, got an axe in the head. And
from the prostitute, right?
From the prostitute, right? Yeah. Who we later learn is named Faith, who then we later learn, I forget when we learn it, was the fairy tale character Donkey Skin. Did you read that? Have you ever heard of Donkey Skin before?
No, dude, there were a lot of, so I've looked up a few things. I don't know who Bluebeard is, and I looked up a couple things like the Crooked Man that comes up later on, Georgie. There were a lot of like very niche fairy tale things, and I think that's why this series had a lot of potential to me, And maybe that's part of the reason why the comics fell flat, because it was too
Right.
much to pull from and a lot of liberties taken, because some of these were like a short poem and they just built a character on it. So,
Yep. So for those that don't know, Donkey Skin, and I'm going off of memory from the game we just played, so bear with me a little bit, but in short, she was the princess in a kingdom, and the king and the queen died or got very sick. And before the queen passed away, she told her husband, the king, that he can remarry as long as he remarries the most beautiful woman in the kingdom, to make sure he has the best, blah blah blah, whatever. So she dies, and the king searches high and low throughout the kingdom, and it turns out the most beautiful woman in the kingdom is his daughter, Faith. Or I don't know if that was her actual fairy tale name.
mm-hmm.
So to hide her beauty, somebody made her a cloak out of donkey skin to hide her beauty and keep her away from her father. And that's the tale of Donkey Skin
Interesting.
in short.
You
So
knew
they
about
had
this before or no?
no,
Okay,
no, no.
no. All
I
right.
read through this game. It had a lot of like things you could interact with in the menus. Every time you like met somebody or unlock something, it would
Mm-hmm.
like give you a like a journal entry kind of thing. I
Yeah,
did go
Book
back
of
and I read.
Fables unlocked, entry
Yeah.
unlocked. Yeah.
So I went and read a couple of those, and that's where this got told.
Okay.
So kind of
And that's
interesting,
exactly
kind
the
of
kind of
gross.
shit I'm talking about. Yeah, kind of
Yep.
weird.
So anyway, Bigby's night goes on. Like we said, he's a sheriff, detective, whatever. He goes on. He leaves from Faith, tries to help her out, and when he ends his night, I forget all the bits that happen, but when he ends his night, he gets visited by Snow White, who brings him back down to the front of his apartment building to find the head of Faith on his doorstep.
Right.
And that's where the first episode ended. Did I miss anything out of that? Did we meet anybody else in that? I think we met Mr. Toad, who never stays in glamour.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. There's the Mr. Toad, maybe the little kid Toad, possibly. There's probably other characters, but I don't think it's like really worth talking about at the
Yeah,
moment. I feel like you can focus on the main parts, but
right. So then that kicks off the investigation and gets us into episode 2, where it's basically just trying to put the pieces together on Faith's death, trying to like uncover that. So I chose and was going really hard on the woodsman being the culprit. Did you do the same? Because there were through some other investigations, it kind of like there was some uncertainty, or let's go track down the huntsman.
yeah.
Or I think we started learning of Faith's husband, who was like Prince from whatever kingdom she was in.
I think initially I kind of thought it might have been the woodsman. I think that's the obvious choice. I mean, that's another thing too. She put an axe in his head. We said that, but we never mentioned it's very hard to kill a fable.
Yes,
These
yes.
people, so like, I don't know what it takes to actually kill one of them, but he pulled the axe out of his head and then like walked off with it.
Yeah.
So they're not easy to kill because they are fairy tale things living in a real world, whatever. I sound like a weird person saying that out loud.
No, they're all, and it's mentioned a couple times, they're all like hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
I think
Probably
Snow White at one
thousands. Yeah.
point, yeah, Snow White said something about like, something after you've been doing this for like 120 years or whatever,
Yeah.
but she was
Yeah.
referring to just their time in New York.
Right. Yeah.
So they're crazy old.
Yeah. And it's also cool too because they you see a little bit later on they kind of end up interacting with like normal human people at some point.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's not just like a world that we don't exist in. It's a world where everybody exists and they're just hiding. So
Right. Um,
I guess
yeah,
you said
go
that
ahead.
it was Faith's head, but I think it was like disguised as Snow's head.
No, so
No?
you do your investigations, It takes you to you track down the woodsman. You can go investigate Lawrence's area, and this is one thing that the game did where it gave you choices to pick, but then later on it put a time limit on some of the choices you could make. So if you were
Okay.
given two places to go, you could pick one, but then that means you missed out on the other.
Hmm.
Which I'm curious to know in later episodes what you had done. But
Yeah, I think
um,
some of the big things in this game were choices. So I wonder if we did the same thing in certain, especially very specific things. I'd like to know, but we'll get to that.
yeah. So yeah, all of episode two is. Oh no, sorry, we're still in episode one. I'm so sorry because you're right. At the end, there was some shenanigans. So you start investigating all that good stuff. You left with Snow White to go do your stuff and try to investigate some things,
Hmm.
and then as episode one is ending, you're going back to your apartment to kind of like I think get some shut eye or whatever
It's
it
just
is.
fucking sleep, dude. You
Yeah,
beat up a dude with an axe.
and you you come up to your apartment building and it's surrounded by police.
Hmm.
And I initially was thinking, oh, they didn't take Faith's head out. They just left it there and they went and did their own thing, right? But Bigby gets up there, uncovers this what I assumed was going to be Faith's head, and he uncovers Snow White's head.
Hmm.
And that was like, what the hell?
Right.
Really good cliffhangers and like ending points on every episode.
Yeah, it definitely worked well with an episodic release schedule
For
every couple
sure, for
months.
sure.
Yeah, they did a good job with that for sure. So then you what he's taken in and questioned by the that's when they show you that it's a fantasy world living within the real world because you meet like real police
Right.
and they question him and I guess like then you Crane like wipes their memory.
Yeah, yeah. So episode two
Yeah.
starts out you're being questioned by the Mundies or Mundanes. And Ichabod Crane, being the current mayor, is trying to like keep this under wraps. He does wipe the memory out of everybody in the police station so they
Yeah.
can't know what's going on. And then that's where they start looking into now Snow White's death and Faith's death, which then leads you back to the Woodsman at one point and also leads you into the strip joint, the Puddin'. What was it called? The Puddin' and Pie, run
Yeah.
by Georgie, who is just a
Georgie Porgy pudding
royal
and pie.
royal piece of shit.
Wow, he didn't even look like a piece of shit, man. He seemed like a nice guy.
Let's see. They had who were some of the girls? They had the Little Mermaid was stripping.
Right,
Not the Little
yeah.
Mermaid that we all know, but another
Yeah,
one.
she even says like I guess the Little Mermaid. Did she ever have a name? Ariel was her name in what we know, but I guess she had a different name
Yeah.
in this, maybe because of Disney, not to get infringed
Possibly
on by
because of
Disney.
Disney. But yeah, if anybody knows, Narissa was the name that they used here. So, but yeah, she made a comment of like, you might know me as the Little Mermaid. So,
Yeah, I want to go
let's
like
see here.
super into it because I feel like we're just going to discuss the
Yeah.
story front to back if we do it, and it'll take
Mhm.
as long as playing through the whole game. But
um, well, no, something big happened in episode two
yeah,
was we get a new suspect on top of the woodsman. It was
Georgie.
no, it was
Oh
Ichabod
yeah,
Crane.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, also Georgie because he seems like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You
So
can't not be suspicious of a guy with face tattoos who works and owns a strip club.
yeah. Um
Yeah, you find out that Crane is maybe in love with Snow White and maybe
right.
paying for sex from somebody who's supposed to look like Snow White.
Right. So Snow's head ended up being a glamored head of a troll.
Ugh.
And yeah, real fun. And he was getting it on with a glamored version of Snow White, and
Yeah.
there were pictures and all this stuff. It was like they didn't hold anything back. Like this was, I think, rated M. I mean, there were
Sure.
Narissa was topless. There were tons of posters and stuff in that area. The picture of Crane, where he took a picture of himself doing things with Snow White, or the quote unquote Snow White. He like it was him laying on the bed and like his hand up her dress, and that was the picture.
I don't remember
Like
that, but
yeah, like they went like they weren't fucking around with it.
in cell shaded, all its cell shaded glory.
So yeah, that's going to bring us into but then so that this was weird. So it's happening a little out of order, but about halfway through episode 2, we find out that the head was glamored because Snow White actually comes back and she was fine. So it wasn't actually Snow White; it was a glamored one. She's back. She's like, "What the hell's going on?" All that good stuff.
Right.
So let's go down into episode 3 and move along here. There was one part I was trying to see what you had done. I'm trying to see where it was.
Smash up the strip club.
Yeah.
I did that.
I
Yeah.
I was doing I gave him like in
A couple
increments of
chances,
3.
and then yeah.
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 I think the last his one of his signs I broke up, and then I think like a drink machine or there was some piece of equipment I knocked up.
I
Uh,
obliterated his like record player and DJ
yeah,
equipment.
that one.
Yeah.
I think this is a little bit further. Did you get in a fight at the bar with the woodsman and the big white monster guy?
Grendel, I think his name was. Yeah.
Yeah,
I liked Grendel's character model a lot when he became the Grendel. That was a
right.
really cool looking creature.
It was.
Yeah. I did get in a little bit of a scuffle with him because that's kind of the way I played it. Because it seems like, and he has the reputation for it, but it seems like Bigby just solves his problems with violence, kind of.
Yeah.
He always resorts to violence. So I tried to play his character that way too.
I ripped his arm off.
Oh shit, I don't think I quite went that far.
So then every scene with him afterwards, it had his sleeve wrapped up on itself because he was
Oh,
missing an arm.
it's pretty mean.
Yeah. So
He
it
seemed
was
like a good, genuinely good guy, actually.
with Bigby, I started out kind of gruff every time I met a new character. And then as I got more interactions, I got a little softer with each one individually.
Yeah, remind me to
Like
never shake your hand. You'll rip my fucking arm
so
off.
so the woodsman at first in that first encounter, I mean, it was just no holds. I was going for
Yeah,
blood,
yeah,
truly. And then every time I met the woodsman, it got a little softer. And then by the end of it, we were friendly.
right. As
So the
friendly as
first
you can be.
encounter, yeah, the first encounter with the Grendel, he's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna fucking fight now. So cool, I'm gonna try and kill you." And I ripped his arm off. It was dope.
I wonder if he'll grow that back eventually, lore-wise, because like even the mirror that breaks, they said it will eventually repair itself, but you don't know how
It
long it would
might.
take. So
Oh
probably.
yeah, I wonder. Let's see here. We met Tweedledee and Tweedledum, who were like hired hitmen.
I liked their characters because the name Tweedledee and Tweedledum implies stupid and maybe muscle, like they are in this case just the muscle of the operation, no brains at all.
Yeah,
They look like it, they act like it, and I just think that that was a very good interpretation of it in a crime type setting. They're just like the mafia, like knock around guys.
yeah. Did you investigate their office?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
You had the option to do the the D's or the Tweedle's office. I think
and then Bluebeard
Crane's.
went somewhere else.
Yeah, Bluebeard went up to Crane's area.
Yeah, that's what I went with.
You went with Bluebeard,
I
or
went
you went with Tweedledee?
Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Okay. Yeah, did you read all their stuff? Because they were like they had two office desks facing each other, and they were intake and outgoing mailboxes, like letter things, and they would write themselves notes back and forth.
No, I don't remember
So,
that.
so,
I
so
love it.
one, I forget which was which, but one of them I read the letterhead, and the most recently received letter was, "No, dumb, I don't like dogs." And then you look at the other guys, and his initial letter was, "I'm thinking about getting a dog for the office." And it was just little shit like that. That
That's
was,
pretty funny.
yeah. This game had so many little things that you could really miss them, because
Yeah.
once you got the answer to move the story on, it kind of just let you move the story on, and you didn't
Hmm.
have to keep
Yeah.
investigating. Let's see here. We met the Jersey Devil as well.
Another
Um,
very cool character model.
yes, I did like that one. It looked like, and I don't know the lore of the Jersey Devil, but there's, I think, there's like some folklore thing of like, oh, I forget where, in one of the Nordic countries, I think, of this, like,
Motor or some mother.
this, yeah, the spirit of like the deer head, and it
Hmm.
comes to your door, and the how you get it to go away is you offer it beer.
Oh,
It's
I don't
very
know what the
strange.
hell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called, but
Is
it
it like
reminded me of that.
there's a movie called I think like Son of Loki or something like that, and it kind of reminded me of that.
Mm,
I think that's what it is. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh yeah, Motor, Moder, the Son of Loki.
okay.
The Ritual is the name of the movie, but if you look it up, it's
Um,
really, really, really creepy looking. I think I might have sent this to you before, but it reminded me of that. It's like this large elk looking thing or a large like
right,
deer,
right.
but its head and stuff is kind of looks like it's made of corpses,
Mm,
human corpses. Like
I don't like
its
that.
antlers very much
Oh
look
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
arms. Yeah, yeah. That's what I
Yeah,
thought you
yeah.
were talking about. That's also very much what it reminded me of. And
All
I
right,
don't think the
that's right.
Jersey Devil has anything to do with that, but
It's gonna bother me. Deer skull, Netherlands, maybe like Wendigo, possibly. No.
Wendigo. So yeah, when I saw that, that's what I immediately Googled. But yeah, Wendigo does North American Algonquin speaking tribes. It's very much. It was basically a Wendigo. If you look at what a picture of that is, that's pretty much what it was.
Yeah. There's I can't remember. Anyway, there's one. It involved beer. Anyway, um, let's see. We went
What
down.
a fucking rant that was. Sorry, guys.
um, what were some of the other choices or notable moments? Bloody Mary got
Hmm.
involved. So interesting character. The first encounter with Bloody Mary in the alleyway as you're trying to like get Crane in for questioning, she attacks or gets in your way, and Tweedledee and Tweedledum also get involved, and there was a fight with them. How did that end for you?
I got shot a bunch by
Yeah.
them, and then I eventually Bloody Mary shot Bigby with a silver bullet and took him down. And then Beauty, Snow White, gave up Crane in order to save Bigby. What is that
Were
the
there were
decision?
there were there any other casualties in that scuffle for
I
you?
don't think so.
I ripped out Dum's throat and killed
Oh
him.
no, both Tweedle. As far as if I remember correctly,
Yeah,
they both lived. You were a little more violent than I
yeah.
was.
That I'm
I'm
telling you.
telling you, he's a sheriff, not a murderer.
No, like I was trying to play it like situationally. Again, every time I met somebody, there were obvious exceptions to this, but it kind of like it was a gradual relationship that
Hmm.
I was experiencing. But every time the dumb twins were involved, they were always hostile. So it was always hostile back at them. There was no like, oh yeah, whatever.
Right.
So I grabbed one of them and I beat them all to hell. And then it's like you can either drop him or you can kill him.
I
And
believe I dropped him.
yeah, I ripped his fucking throat out. It was gruesome, and I loved it. But I was thinking of like in the moment, Bigby's had this like he like leveled up and had this like really intense transformation
Hmm.
because he's been like human, really strong, and then like a hybrid werewolf where he just gets a little bit of like wolven features, and
Yeah.
then it fully went into like he's almost fully gone. There's really no man left.
Right.
Right. So I was like, in this intense moment, he's gonna go bloodlust all the way.
You went from wolf boy to werewolf.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then after that, it becomes the kind of going from like local business to like a bigger, badder thing in the background of this crooked man who's been like pulling the strings of the criminal organization
Hmm.
in this fable realm. A weird looking dude. He was like all ugly and
Yeah, it's like
distorted
the
looking.
whole eye was kind of hanging out, but not
Yeah.
really. Yeah, definitely. And he was very well spoken too, and very polite,
Yes.
which is like always kind of a nice trait of a creepy villain. You know, somebody being super polite and calm, no matter like it's a intimidating characteristic for a villain, I think.
Yeah. So you encounter him after healing from the encounter with Bloody Mary, get to his lair. Another fight breaks out, of course.
Hmm.
And did you injure Georgie in that fight?
He
Because I think
gets, yeah, I
it
think
gets
that's part of
cut.
the story.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
is too. Which I meant to mention this earlier, but I'll mention it now. Is I think when I first started playing, I was thinking, and again, this is a what 10-year-old game now, 11-year-old
Hmm.
game. I think because of like coming off the heels within the last year or so of like Baldur's Gate, where there are so many variables,
Hmm.
you can truly change the story all the way through
Right.
with like impactful changes. And I know that's not what this was, but I think when I was playing initially, I was like, oh yeah, this is James and I are going to have a vastly different experience. And that's not really what it was. It was
I feel like a lot
total
of the time you make a
changes.
decision and it just says like uh, Tweedledee will remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was noticing like very rare, and it didn't derail it, but I would have a certain reaction or give a certain response to somebody, and yeah, it would say like, oh, they remember that or whatever, but their response next, there would be some buffering time. I think where they were trying to cut in another response based on what you chose, and they might remove or add dialogue
Hmm.
depending on your choice, and you could kind of see those like built-in edits and how I expected a certain response of mine to go eventually got to where it made sense no matter what I had picked for how I spoke to this person, if that makes any sense.
I feel like in most cases the end game was the same. At the
Yeah.
end of each episode, they did show you like a comparison breakdown of what other people generally picked.
Right, right.
So that was kind of cool. There were some where everybody just picked the same fucking thing. It was pretty
Yeah.
nuts. But I guess that's also just the human condition that we all,
There were a couple I got, and I was thinking
yeah,
about
like
bringing this up,
ripping
but I
off
was
arms.
yeah, there were a couple of ones that I chose where it was like, oh, you and 10% of the people did this. I had like really unique choices on the whole. I can't remember any of them specifically. I was gonna
Probably
take
ripping off
screenshots,
Grendel's arm.
probably. It was really frustrating because it only showed three things per screen, so I had to take a ton of screenshots, and I didn't want to.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, the dialogue was. I noticed that I would love for them to do this kind of story, but like get a crack at what Larian did with Baldur's Gate, where you could like really have a different kind of story based on your choices. Like
Maybe if
we've come
Telltale
pretty
evolved
far.
enough.
Yeah,
But either way,
Telltale.
the thing is, if they do, like in this case, if they do episodic releases, you can't make a decision that breaks the next game,
Right.
you know?
Very true. Very true. All right. So we're getting really close to the end here. They dove into like Beauty and the Beast story. I didn't really like any of that. It would just felt filler-esque. It was really just to give more context to the end game
I do want to
with
say
how
about them.
yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought it was funny how the Beast was so fucking insecure about his relationship. And you would probably expect that if he was like an ugly guy that was turned handsome later on. You
Yeah.
know, because he never wasn't a beast in this, but then he became handsome. But he's, married to a beautiful woman, and he was at one point like the ugly, hideous beast that we all know and love. And he was
Yep.
probably very insecure as a result of that.
Yeah.
And I just thought
He
that was kind
really
of
didn't
funny.
like he really didn't like Bigby for I think multiple reasons with him being the big bad wolf and everything,
Hmm.
but they had very similar traits physically.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there was some insecurity there with like Beauty starting
This
to
guy will fuck a beast. I mean,
swoon over. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
my wife will fuck a beast. Maybe she'd fuck a wolf too.
Yeah, I really think there was a little bit of that too, because there were
Yeah,
some,
it's possible.
especially when Beast was like starting to transform a little bit
Hmm.
and be a little bit more bestial. They looked kind of not the same, but they had very similar
Yeah,
attributes.
like they could be brothers.
Um, yes,
Like in a dark room, she would confuse one for the other.
one was a little more hairy.
Yeah, and I just want to say one was a little more horny because he did have horns.
There you go.
All right, moving on. Sorry.
Moving on. There was one last confrontation with Bloody Mary, which was really fun.
Yeah,
Because her whole thing is like mirrors and all that, and her
this
like,
was like larger than life, man. Like that whole part was just like, what the fuck? And then I realized what was happening.
yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
So Bloody Mary, that's the one, you say her name so many times in the mirror. She comes out, blah blah blah, whatever. Her unglamored form was like this monstrous like woman figure with like
Hmm.
shards of glass and mirrors sticking out of her and bleeding everywhere, and it was very creepy. But there was this big fight with her and Bigby, and there were hundreds of reflections of her with
Hmm.
thematic, of course, which then caused Bigby to have the final transformation to literally become a massive wolf, a big bad wolf. And you got to fight her off as a wolf, and it was real fun. All quick time events, but I think it was really fun and really cinematic.
Well, don't leave out the fact that he won the fight by huffing and puffing.
Oh, that's right.
That's why I
That's
was
right.
like, oh, this is what's happening here. He became
Yeah.
like the Three Little Pigs bad wolf, where he like huffed and puffed and blew everything down. And, it was just like ridiculous.
It was real fun.
Very fantasy.
Oh man. Trying to think, were
So
there any other big moments
I do want to
that we're
ask,
missing?
what did you do with the frog and the pig? At
They went
some
to the farm.
points, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm
And,
surprised you did that, but you already did play the
initially,
Astral playthrough.
initially, I tried to be like, "Oh, let's try to figure something out," but Toad kept getting break
Toad's a
after break
piece of
after
shit,
break.
dude.
We gave him money. We tried to help him in multiple instances, and I was trying at towards the end. I was really wanting to fight for it because I was kind of frustrated because little Toad had to go too, and he
Hmm.
didn't have the glamour because of Big Toad. So it's not really his fault, you know. And that really frustrated me. But yeah, they went to the farm. Him and them and Colin, the pig that we
Yeah,
haven't talked about.
yeah. So that's a good. I didn't like Toad at all. I never liked his
No.
character. You eventually are uh, forced to make a decision whether you're going to send him to the farm to go be a frog forever or live in the city. He wants to stay in the city. He tries to convince you that it's a better place to raise his kid than raising his kid on the farm. But he's just that guy that like tries to play the system. He accepted money to from you to go buy a glamour, didn't buy a glamour. He's like
Yep.
just that like guy that tries to talk everything, and then if you try to call him on it, he tries to make you feel bad about it and guilt
Yeah.
trip you. He's just that like everybody has met somebody like that, in real life, and they're the fucking worst. So I was happy to send him. And honestly, I mean, his son didn't seem to care. When it came down to it, his son wasn't like, "Oh, I love my shitty little New York apartment." Like his son actually, maybe it was a better setting for his son. His son collected bugs. He liked he had a bug collection and stuff. You're gonna find more of that in the farm probably than you will in New York City.
Yeah, one other thing, sorry, talking about his son made me think about this.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, you had to question TJ,
Yeah.
Toad Jr., about when Lily, the ogre in glamour form, got dumped in the river.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And at one point, he said that he heard somebody laughing. Or no, somebody was saying stop laughing, but nobody was laughing. Were they alluding to some character being involved with that?
I don't know, man. I think that there's a lot of open-endedness to this that I think you would see in the next season that we never got.
Right.
We don't really know what the plot was of the bad guys.
We
They
don't.
just
Yeah.
and that's huge. They never revealed their motive. There's a secret society of people that are doing something bad, and that's all we know, and that's all we are ever left with, and it's been 11 years.
Right.
So there's a lot of loose ends, I guess is the term.
I was thinking like Mad Hatter might make an appearance, like something like that. But the fact that he didn't that he didn't hear laughing, so there was no character that was laughing. I was thinking if it was the Mad Hatter, in every depiction we've seen him in other media, he's typically very giggly and stuff. So it might not be him. Could be like Cheshire Cat kind of thing with a big grin. A lot of options if they were going to pursue something. But you're exactly right. We didn't get our second season.
Yeah. I also want to say, there's so much to pull from because they're getting like fairy tales I've never even heard of in my entire life. But I want to say the thing I really liked that I felt so bad about everybody with Colin the pig. He's one of the pigs that the big bad wolf blew his house down.
Yep.
And now he's a homeless pig, and Bigby has opted to let him live and sleep on his couch. Because
did he stay at the end for you?
I sent him to the farm.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. He was like the other version of just somebody who he's a pig, dude. Like they're lazy by nature. You know what I mean? So like he's not going to go out and work and get a job to be able to pay for his glamour to look like a human. He's just a lazy pig, and he was taking advantage a little bit of the situation, I think, in staying at Bigby's apartment and sleeping on his couch, but Bigby is the direct cause of him being homeless.
Very true.
In his fairy tale. That was just stuff like that was what made me want to read the comic, was because I felt like they pulled so elegantly from these tales that we've heard of and put it in such a real world spin, and that's why I was stoked about reading them, and I hated them.
Yeah.
So, but I sent him to the farm because he was a fucking pig. But I mean, nobody would bat it. Dude, this game was
as long as he didn't talk, it'd be fun. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, or smoke cigarettes because he was a pig that smoked cigarettes. But you know what, man? 2024, there's white women out there with pet pigs that sleep on their couches, so they love it. So this game was behind the times.
It was.
Or ahead of the time, I don't know.
We kind of glossed over the crooked man, but he was like the big bad in the background, blah blah blah. But we get to sentence him to stuff.
Yeah, it's a big.
How did that go for you?
I didn't lock him up forever, but that was the plan, and then he got turned into a bird. What did you you killed him?
Mine's easy because I ripped his head off.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, yeah. So there was the solution was to make it so he could never hurt anybody. So they had the witch, Auntie, whatever her name was.
Yeah.
Turned him into a Greenleaf. Yeah. She turned him into a crow and put him in a bird cage. So he just became somebody's pet bird, which could potentially cause like a second episode or a second season because he
Well,
could become something else.
and that's interesting because from what you had mentioned before with doing like if Larian got this idea or whatever, doing episodic releases would be really tough because if you killed a character or
Hmm.
blah blah blah, it might not all be cohesive. So I had the option to kill the Crooked Man, and I did. So it wouldn't make any sense for him to return later on.
Right, but then there were other people involved in his little of ring of crime or whatever. Like
Right.
maybe there was somebody bigger than the Crooked Man, or maybe it's just a completely new thing, and I don't know.
Well, I do want to talk a little bit about it because there is a trailer, and I I've seen some characters they're going to talk about or going to have in there. I mean, fuck it, let's talk about it now, just real quick. I watched the trailer before we hopped on to record. The Tin Man and the Scarecrow from Off to See the Wizard. That one.
Okay.
They were in it, and the Tin Man apparently is a big brute,
Hmm.
which real fun because I think his whole thing was no, the lion was courage. What was the Tin Man's thing?
Brain.
A brain or a heart? One was a heart, one was a brain, one was courage. I can't remember. Doesn't matter. Anyway,
Oh wait, the Scarecrow wanted a brain.
yeah.
The Tin Man
So
wanted oil.
I think it was he wanted a heart because he didn't have a thing. Also, Tin Man had a gun in that movie. Look it up.
Okay.
Just a straight up gun.
Wait, in the
And
trailer or in
no,
little?
sorry. So in The Wizard of Oz
He had a
from like
gun.
the 50s, he
Yeah,
had a handgun, like a revolver,
there's nothing
in the
wrong with that.
movie.
Yeah.
And it was like one scene randomly. It was very, very funny. Nobody ever noticed it. And
Hmm.
it's been like on all the TikToks of like, oh, did you know he had a gun? Anyway, but no, in the trailer, they showed a woman that I couldn't quite tell who it was, the Scarecrow and the Tin Man. And also they gave Bigby a really stupid fur-lined coat. I hate it.
I love that.
Everything I've seen, I think of the trailer, the parts I hate, the parts I didn't like were the one that Bigby was in because I didn't like the new character model of his clothing.
Oh, I see it. It
Anyway,
reminds me of the murder jacket from The Walking Dead.
yeah.
Hmm.
All right, back to this game. Where there was an epilogue. So yeah, I ripped his head off. You got a bird. You did talk about him being a good talker and very well spoken. There was when he was defending himself at one point. I got a little blurb of like the Crooked Man is like winning over the crowd, and he was like
Funny.
starting to
Yeah.
get people on his side. So very very good talker, but didn't work. There was a little epilogue where we find out that Narissa was the cause of the whole thing. I honestly don't remember exactly how they did it, but basically she did a thing, tried to make it better, and then everything spiraled out of control. So she
Yeah.
kind of like set this whole chain of events off. Oh,
And
going
then
back a little bit.
she go on.
No, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and she also set off the chain of events by placing the body with Bigby because she felt like he would be the guy that would actually try to fix it instead of just
That's
sweeping
right.
it under the rug.
Right, right.
So it's all her fault, every bit of it. I wanted to bring up that I liked the scene that eventually you and the woodsman end up beating the shit out of someone together. The
The Jersey Devil.
the Jersey Devil, yeah. And then afterwards, like you guys are just standing out there together, and like you guys somehow make peace. And I remember
Yep.
when I played, I asked him if he was okay, and he was like, "You know me," and then walks away. And it's like, yeah, you guys are never gonna be like that
Yeah.
good. But it was cool to see. There was definitely like character development that they're always gonna be against each other, but there's also like a mutual respect. I think I liked the dynamic of those characters a lot. Also, the
Same.
woodsman mentioned at some point that he never intended on saving anybody when he found him because
Yeah.
he was like, he's like, I've always been a piece of shit. He said like he was gonna like rob the granny or
In his
rob, yeah,
original fairy tale.
yeah, and he like showed up and was like, oh, maybe if I save them, I'll get a better reward than if I just take their money. It
Yep.
was, I don't know. Like, I like how none of these characters are really good. Even Snow has some kind of like really dark past that they briefly mention.
She was really upset about all the Crane stuff, and it like really hit even
Hmm.
harder with her.
Well, it was also about her in a way.
True, true.
That, I mean, that can't feel good.
One thing I was going to bring up: how did the scene with Georgie after he got injured,
Yeah.
and what was the girl's name?
What was her name? I don't remember.
The no, it was the girl with the well, it was the original with the necktie thing they had, the ribbon.
Yeah,
So
I
it was
don't
the girl that
remember.
it was her ribbon. I just can't remember her name. Vivian?
Yep.
Vivian.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it was Vivian's thing that was making it so that all the women couldn't talk. Her ribbon was removed in my playthrough.
Yeah, same.
Did you do it or did she do it to
She did
herself?
it. What about you?
Okay. I was thinking about it grabbing it, but she did it. I refrained and
Yeah.
then she did it herself, which is also when it finally clicked in 100% that there were parts of this that were always going to happen
Right.
no matter what you did. So,
Let me ask you this. So Georgie, did you when he was definitely going to die, he showed you he was like intestines hanging out, he was hiding it. What
yep.
did you do then? Did you just let him pass away?
I sped it up. I helped him die.
Yeah, so I thought maybe we're gonna like mercy kill him and be nice about it. I don't know how he would have done that. No, dude, the big bad wolf just reaches down and rips his fucking guts out.
Yep.
I thought it was gonna be like a civil mercy kill, and no, it was just brutal, dude. He went for the brutal noodle, you know?
Oh my god.
And
Man, what a game.
it was gritty, man. I don't want to sound weird when I say this, but I liked how violent the game was, like in the
Yeah.
storytelling. It was just it's based around fairy tales, which are not, I guess, like the original fairy tales, maybe they were a lot darker than Disney makes them seem, but we have this impression that it's all like cutesy bullshit, and they really went in on the dark like grit and the like gore of this environment. I was really it was such a good setting that I tried reading the comics. Fuck.
Dude, all like almost all not probably not almost all of those fairy tales, the original versions were like
Very dark. Yeah.
extremely dark. Like the like Cinderella and the evil sisters, they like to get their feet to fit in, they were like
Cutting parts of
cutting
their feet
parts of their
off.
feet off. At the end of it, they left the mother and the stepmother and possibly the two sisters to like have crows pick their eyes out and stuff.
Right. Yep.
Um, yeah, I think it was by the Grimm brothers. Wrote a lot of them. I have one of the books that has like all the fairy tales. They're wildly dark. They're crazy. The original versions.
So it's probably the versions that they went off of more so
Yeah.
than the
I think it was a good mix. I think that what they went on, I think was good. It wasn't Disney, which is what I was happy about. It wasn't all
yeah.
sunshine and rainbows.
And it was also original. They didn't go with like the Grimm brothers fairy tales that you were
Mhm.
talking about. They came up with their own original version of it and
Right.
went forward with it. I liked it.
Heavily inspired by, which is
Yeah.
always pretty good.
It was weird. I remember when I read the comics, I was trying to explain to somebody what I was reading, and I was like, dude, this sounds so fucking weird. It sounds more
Out of
interesting.
context, it's hard.
Super hard, yeah. Yeah, because everybody has like the version of the story that everybody our age knows is the Disney one.
Yeah.
So to explain that, like, there's a like Narissa, the Little Mermaid, is actually a prostitute. Like, it just doesn't.
Yeah,
They're like, this is not for me. So you
man.
got anything you want to add after anything else you want to discuss? I like that we talked about the choices because that's a big part of the game, and there are
Mhm.
some that heavily impact the story. And I think we nailed the big ones with the characters.
Yeah, I can't think of anything specific,
Okay,
but I do. I will say, I want to play more of The
you'll
Wolf
get your
Among Us,
shot.
and I want to dive into some of the other Telltale games.
Okay,
So I'm definitely interested. I don't
I
know
don't.
if, and it didn't even have to be for the podcast. I'm interested just to play them.
Yeah, I don't remember if I have any of the other ones. I don't think that I do.
Hmm. I wonder if how bad they are on Steam right now.
Like price wise?
Yeah.
I don't think they'd be too bad. They're not. They're hardly. Is this a video game?
I think it's no. Well, it's a subcategory of a video game. I think it's an interactive.
Story.
It's more of like an interactive film or an interactive story.
Yeah.
So you get to pick what part of the show you're watching. You know, you
Right.
will. It's on the outskirts, I think, of being a video game, but I think it qualifies.
Man,
It's
the
close
Telltale
enough.
Walking Dead is $50.
Wow.
It is though. It's boasting over 50 hours of gameplay, and it is a very. It's over
Really?
23 episodes. Yeah, they even did like
Holy
it's
crap.
4 seasons. I told you it was a lot. I thought it was 5 seasons, but yeah, 4 seasons, and then a 400 days, and then one specifically about Michonne, which I don't think I ever played.
Oh shit. Oh, so it actually followed characters from the show and all that, and from the ones that we all know.
Some of them,
Um,
not. It,
some of them.
it was kind of weird. Yeah, I remember Jesus specifically was in it, and then that's when I was like, okay, this would be perfect for them to introduce the, the characters from this in the TV show, and they never did, and I was very disappointed about that.
Did you go to the? You went to the butcher shop, or did you go to the pawn shop?
Wait, what? I did both.
You did both.
I did both. Yeah, went to the
Oh,
butcher
you're right.
shop, and
You're
then I
right.
was told about the pawn shop.
Yep, you're
I
right.
thought the
Sorry.
butcher shop was going to be a lot more fucked up than it was.
All right, everybody, that's going to do it here for us. Next episode, we're going to be joined by the gentleman over at Smashing Game Time. So be sure to check that out. We're going to be discussing the game What Remains of Edith Finch. It's a really good episode. Be sure to stay tuned for that. Other than that announcement, we are done here. So check us out, 321 Backlog, anywhere on social media. You could find us. We have a link tree to make it easy for you. linktr.ee/321backlog. Check us out there. We've got merch. We've got coupon codes. We got everything. If you want to show us some support, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening.